my advice would be for people is if you can make it fun and if you can genuinely connect with people and feel like you're getting them in a better place and you're doing an actual service, I guarantee you so many transactional salespeople out there, they don't know how to have that emotional IQ in regards to all the small things, whether it's empathy. One of the secret weapons in sales is being able to put yourself in other people's shoes and really understand where they're at and then cater the presentation to their specific scenario. But if you're not a good active listener, for example, how are you going to ever have empathy? And if you're purely thinking about, oh, here's the process and here's what I need to do, and you can't make a genuine connection, then the trust will never be there anyways.
I always say give and grow. In fact, that's a Wi-Fi password. If you're up here in anywhere in the facility, and you're wondering what it is, it's give and grow. You got to give, man, and you got to grow, right? You got to give back, and that's exactly what you said. When you're giving and serving and making a difference, and you have that person in mind. And I think that also plays into sales, right? Like anybody that you're selling, if you go into that, and I know that brand, I got something of greater value than whatever I'm getting in return. And in sales, a lot of times that return is commission. Right, it's getting a paycheck. But if I go into that sales and I'm approaching like, man, I've got so much value to give you, and I'm focused on the value that I'm providing, I'm a giver. I'm not focused on what am I getting, what's the reciprocation here, or what am I receiving. It's, man, how can I serve you? How can I give? How can I make this transaction transformational where you end up excited and happy that we had it, right? That's the giving.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Leveled Up Life podcast. Brandon McCourtney, as always, here with Paul McLean. Every single week, we sit down to bring you value, encouragement, maybe even some entertainment, some motivation, some inspiration to help you level up your life in every single area that we think is important, and hopefully that you think is important, whether it's your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, or your franchise. Today, man, it's going to be a treat. So as always, lean in, turn up the volume, maybe take some notes. Slow down in your car if you're driving too fast, because we want you to pay attention. We got some good stuff happening today. And if you haven't already, view, or comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with a friend. But today we have a special guest. I'm going to pass it to Paul McLean. And Paul, why don't you introduce our guest?
Hey, appreciate it, bro. Good to be back on. Hey, today, guys, this is a big deal. In fact, we sit back and we think, like, who can we get on that's going to impart just some phenomenal value to you? The goal is that you leave each day and you can level up because you are a part of this podcast. And today, guys, I got a great buddy of mine. He's been married for a long time. He's got two beautiful daughters. One, in fact, that just got accepted D1 scholarship to play basketball. This is somebody that's built a massive business, and not just a massive organization. I'm talking like in one of the biggest industries in the world, financial services, built one of the top 1% of agencies out there. Exited that business. He was one of the top sales producers in the entire insurance industry. And this is somebody that, I could say, as I built my business alongside him in the same kind of vein, the same space, that I really locked arms with, I connected well with, and I pulled a lot of value that I was able to put in my business and level up in sales and how to run organizations, thought process, belief systems. All those things I was able to unpack and get from him. And so I believe he'll do the same thing for you today. So my good buddy, one of my best friends, Matt Smith, good to have you on, brother.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. So yeah, man, let's
jump into it, man. Well, hey, listen, so we could go a couple different ways as far as being able to enhance the viewers and the audience that's on today. And what I do want to also suggest is as we go through this today, everybody leaning in and listening, go ahead and comment a question. If you're like, I want to know a little bit more about this, I'll shoot it to Matt, and I know that he'll, be able to answer, and we'll get it right back to you as well. But what I want to do, Matt, is kind of step into your journey. You stepped into financial services. You had done a couple other businesses. It was one of those, like, seemed like you had an entrepreneurial spirit about yourself. But as you built that business, you didn't lose touch of being a present, purposeful father. And I think that's such a big deal. Our vision and goal with a leveled up life is really to not have other areas of our life that matter just as much suffer because we're winning in one bucket, right? And so if you can kind of talk about that journey from, stepping into an entrepreneur, what did that look like? Kind of go through that process, and then how you were, still able to be that present father and develop that relationship with your kids. Because to me, it's a great example of what a dad should be.
Absolutely, Paul. Again, thanks for having me on. Thanks, Brandemir. Out of college where I met my spouse, um, I had worked in the W-2 world as a finance manager at the world's largest Dodge Chrysler dealership. And, that's where I learned a lot about sales in the beginning of my career. Probably one of my most proud accolades that I got is I was the number one F&I manager for 7 straight years for all of Chrysler. And there was 4,800 dealerships and, 20 plus thousand F&I guys across the country. So I felt like that's really where I cut my teeth in sales, learned a lot in sales. And then I became self-employed. I was self-employed for basically about 20 years. And it's just taught me a lot in regards to being disciplined, in regards to just having a continuous learning mindset that allows you to grow, how to build relationships with people. All those things matter in the end result of being able to exit, right, Paul? Just like you, in our businesses, and build a tremendous team and atmosphere and culture that people want to be around. So that's a little bit about my background in regards to sales and being self-employed. I mean, when I first got self-employed, I was in business with my college roommate for 17 years, Sean Ruggiero, and he and I got into the mortgage industry. We got into software development companies. We got into um, insurance together, and as well as advanced markets together. So we had a history of building things. And I think the thing that worked having a partnership, because it's not for everyone, for Sean and I, is we never had a tally or keep score type scenario. The one thing I would compliment my spouse on, my wife, is she isn't someone that's like, hey, because you did this, I need to do that, or whatever. It's a really healthy relationship in regards to business, or professionally or personally, when you can have relationships that aren't scoreboard watching, right? And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I've been able to be successful over the years in business, is having those healthy relationships that allow you to grow and prosper, and go from there. So
I love that, dude. What are some strategies, Matt, that you think that really kind of helped you in that? As you built the businesses, it sounds like a partnership was a big part of it. And I do believe that that's a massive part of somebody that's trying to start a business, is find somebody that you can connect with. It's no different than when I looked at this podcast. I thought, like, man, who would be a great person I could connect with? And I was like, Brand would be phenomenal. The value that he could provide, would be immense, and we could play off each other. And two is always significantly better than one. It's not like twice as good. It's way better. And so I think partnerships are a big thing. I know that for me in business, Andrew was a partner that I had as I built that. And so partnership seems like a great strategy. What are some other strategies that really helped you in building a business and, the overall just family dynamics and thriving in both of those arenas?
absolutely. I think, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, risk comes into play. And the more risk that you take, the more reward is on the other side of that. And I think as a parent and as a businessman, I think the biggest, hurdle for a lot of people is, which allows you to be more present as a father, a husband, and everything else, is really starting to outsource things that aren't good at, or aren't truly income producing activities. So, I mean, that could be at home. Maybe mowing the yard isn't the best idea. I used to really enjoy mowing the yard when I was younger, for all the reasons that you might want to mow the yard, disconnect, whatever, feel like you're doing physical labor, things like that. But, I mowed the yard forever. So just using that example as an outsource, or in business, having a starting to scale your business and having your staff do the things that you're not good at, in order for you to focus on the things that are most effective. And that brings me to the next point. A lot of times in business, people talk about, hey, you need to work really, really hard and you need to do all these things, but they lose the most important aspect of being effective. Because the most frustrating thing in sales, and the reason why there's a tremendous amount of turnover in sales, is people's effectiveness is so low. It's just low level effectiveness, and they might be working their tails off, but there's nothing more frustrating than having all these long days and not turning a profit or not being effective. And it's just learning, obviously, how to, you know, front load weeks when you're maybe traveling with your family, or you know that you have something in the schedule that you don't want to miss as a parent. So many times it's like, parents, or people in entrepreneurship, they run their business like I was when I went to college. And what I mean what I mean by that is they literally will crash course study for the exam the night before, which is a recipe for failure. That instead of having that proper prior preparation that prevents poor performance,
Wow,
they
that
literally
was
will
impressive, dude.
just.
I don't know what just happened, but I felt good about it. I liked
I
it.
still got
I
it.
like how it
I
made me
still got
feel.
this. I think that's six P's. I think it's six P's, but I'm really not sure. We'll just trust and verify later, but I don't know. But it's just important to make sure that you have some preparation going into weeks, because the greatest thing is, even having a good week or a bad week, I had the same discipline, right? It never meant anything to me if I had a big week, because I knew momentum was really easy to lose and it was hard to keep. And if you don't realize that in a self-employed journey, or in life, in anything you do, if you're somebody like Paul, you wake up early and run around the lake 47 times. It's like the minute you start missing a few days, like that all of a sudden you don't feel like it anymore. And the sooner you start to let your emotions creep into your business, and there's a plenty of days that I didn't feel like it. I love telling stories back in the day, because I was number one producer, Chrysler dealerships, for F&I. I ended up being number one overall producer at our first insurance stop, Paul. I was the number one producer all time when I got out of the field at our previous IMO as well. And those things that I look at was, I never let the emotion of a low week or a high week. I just had the same discipline throughout the entire bar. But I am a human being. I remember literally going to doors and like having an appointment, knocking on the door and going, man, I really hope they're not here right now, because I don't even feel like giving this presentation. But boy, if that door opened, I was all, I let that go. I let that go right away. And I just would lock in. And, sometimes my advice would be for people is, if you can make it fun, and if you can genuinely connect with people and feel like you're getting them in a better place and you're doing an actual service, that's where sales becomes more fun. And that's where people, I guarantee you, so many transactional salespeople out there, they don't know how to have that emotional IQ in regards to all the small things, whether it's empathy. One of the secret weapons in sales is being able to put yourself in other people's shoes and really understand where they're at, and then cater the presentation to their specific scenario. But if you're not a good active listener, for example, how are you going to ever have empathy? And if you're purely thinking about, oh, here's the process and here's what I need to do, and you can't make a genuine connection, then the trust will never be there anyways. So I used to come out of appointments, Paul, and think, well, I knew I didn't get that sale. I mean, I just, for whatever reason, I could not connect with that individual. Not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. But I could remember coming out of sales and being like, one of the rules I've always lived by is the 20-60-20 rule. And that's just like 20% of people are not going to buy from you regardless of, what you do. The other 20% of people, as long as you make it affordable and it makes sense to them, they're going to buy. But the 60%, that middle group, is really where experience, where the good salespeople become great, and you close up to 80%. I think it's cute that there's people in the world that say, "Oh, I close 99% of all people." I'm like, well, then you're meeting the wrong clients, because you should be sitting in front of clients that are going to have some pushback at some time. Otherwise, your sales skills won't be that sharp, in my opinion. And that's doing all types of sales. I mean, mortgages, car business, whatever, over the phone, in person, insurance, you name it. Um, I think that becoming effective, though, Paul, is the answer over hard work. I believe becoming the most effective person in your space is the most important thing, and that comes with, are you somebody that's going to continuously learn? The greatest thing about you, Paul, knowing your history, is you would drive around in the car and listen to audio all the time. You didn't have a lot of, you were super disciplined on what you wanted, and that's why you reached the top of your class. That's why you reached the top of the field, simply because you were someone that was always thirsty and hungry for more. And that's the thing I appreciate about you over the years, is working together, is you've been someone that inspires me in a lot of ways for what you've done. And look how far, it's crazy, man. You think about, we've known each other for so long, when you're a young man, just basically out of high school, getting in this industry, think about who you are then, and then think about who you are now. And, we usually don't realize how far we've come in life until you take a look back like that and you realize, wow, I don't even recognize that person. So it's just kudos to you and your growth. And Brandon Muir is no different. Like, for him to run his successful business, being self-employed, I've known Brandon Muir for a long time. It's impressive what he's built and what he's done, and the type of family man and faith that you both have are something that is inspiring to
No, I
many
appreciate
people. So
that,
good
Matt.
stuff,
And
man.
as I'm sitting back and listening, I'm thinking back to my own journey from working for someone else to entrepreneurship and what that looks like. And I'm thinking for many people that at least follow us, they're on this journey of trying to level up, trying to maybe start a business or get into sales or get into some sort of space where they can grow wealth or increase their sales ability or whatever it is. And I know for me, it was an all or nothing scenario when I transitioned from working from someone else to my own journey. And so I didn't really have a choice. I was all in. But I see now a lot of people, they're kind of playing both sides of the fence, right? So they're like, uh, you know, I call quiet quitting. So they're still working their job, but they're not really there. They're checked out, right? So their mind's on something else. Like, maybe talk us through the transition from when you were working in the corporate space to going all in on entrepreneurship. Like, what was that? What was that journey like? Were you like, I'm out of here, I'm going all in, or were you playing both sides, or how did that work? What advice would you give to someone who's kind of thinking about starting a business now? Because for today it's probably easier to start a business now than ever. All you need is an Instagram and a farmer's market, and you got a business. But what does that look like for someone? Maybe what advice would you give someone who's thinking about going all in on the entrepreneur or sales journey? What would you say to your younger self?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things, remembering, and this is in 2005, so this is a minute ago, but I remember my family. I was making like 350 at age 20. What was that, 8 or so? And they're like, "We'll pay you 100 more to stay." And at the time, everybody was like, "Man, why would you leave? Why would you leave?" And I just looked back, and I knew I was going to get into sales, and I knew the thing I can compliment the car business is, if we're busy, you had to be there. And if we weren't, we had to be there. And it was 12-hour days. So I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better than to have great work ethic coming out of the car industry, which I'm grateful for. But it also gave me a lot of confidence to be like, I'll do any sales and crush it. put me in any atmosphere, any sales environment, and I know for a fact that I would be at the top. I remember being introduced to my first convention in insurance, and there was somebody on stage that was the number one producer, and I turned to the guy that had given me a call off of a list of names type thing, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm going to beat that guy." And I'm sure that he's heard everything every year, but he's like, "Sure, okay." And I'm like, "No, I'm dead serious. I'm going to be number one guy here. You just wait." And you know, the reason why I'm telling this story is for people that are looking to make a move. I think being self-aware is really important because, first of all, this is an interesting stat. 85% of people think they're self-aware, but only 15% of people are. So if you think you're self-aware, you're probably not. And I think that comes with self-awareness comes with, do you have something that you know you're good at? Because if you have had some success in an area, then it's great to double down on that success and take it and run with it. But if you just like the idea of, hey, I want to be my own boss, have my own schedule and all these different things, but I haven't had any success in any arena. I don't know if I'm probably the person that's keeping a job and dabbling my toe in things. But if you're someone that's had a lot of success and you can jump into something full speed, then by all means do it. Everybody's a little bit different and everybody's in a different financial position. I had leveraged myself in my early 20s so much that I was a lot like you, Brandon Mara. You said you had no choice. One of the best things you can do as a self-employed entrepreneur is actually give yourself no choice. And what I mean by that is like, I always, even early on in my insurance career, we hired staff and had an office, and had, marketing budgets and everything else. And really what that created is we had to pay people, we had rent to pay, we had bills to pay, and we had our own personal bills to pay. And with all of that said, it didn't allow me to have any choices. What happens with a lot of people is they feel like they have these little safety nets built in and they have a little bit of choices. But if you attack your entrepreneurship career as, hey, I have no choice. And for me, creating overhead gave me no choices, and I wanted to do it anyways. People are always scared to make that leap of faith into, investing into their business. But the greatest thing, and Brandon, Mary, both you and Paul would know this about when you invest in your business and you have staff and you have over and you have a marketing budget, all these different things, is you get to a point where, okay, maybe you're making X above the number you need to make to pay your bills. Well, all of a sudden, then it goes, your bills, all your expenses stay the same, but then your incomes generally goes up and up. And that's when, that self-employed environment gets real good, because you're able to scale it quickly. But I think you got to be honest with yourself on what type of person are you, and then you got to ask yourself, are you willing to do, if it's sales, for example, and almost everything's got a form of sales in it, in regards to that. But I mean, I think the three aspects you need in sales is, are you a good communicator? Do you have those active listening skills? Do you make a clear message? Are you able to have a genuine connection? Do you have that empathy where you can really put yourself in other people's shoes? And then also just that emotional IQ of being able to, overcome objections, persuade people, really be effective in your field, I think separates the decent salespeople to good to great. There's so many salespeople that get frustrated and quit in multiple industries, simply because they don't have core fundamentals locked in, and they sometimes it's like they don't even know where to start. Which, Paul and I have been blessed in our lives to have, some good mentors, and a lot of it, though, as good as the mentors are, a lot of this comes, as Brandon Muir, especially starting out your businesses, it's like you have to learn by doing, tacit learning. You have to learn by becoming, active in getting feedback, and then talk about that feedback with partners or mentors, and make adjustments and adapt and do those certain types of things if you really want to grow. But most people get frustrated, don't change anything, and then wonder why it's not working out, and then they do the same things over and over and expect different results, and we know that's the definition of insanity. But it's just a matter of being honest with yourself, being able to take on risk, being honest if you're a risk taker. Not everybody's meant for this self-employed scenario. Just it looks flashy and whatnot, but the truth is, the matter is, you probably need to give a decade of your life away to some extent and work harder than a W-2 job. Doesn't mean you can't have family time and can't be with your spouse and kids and do all the things you want to do, but you need to be able to say, is this something I'm willing to spend 10 years of my life doing to set the rest of my life like it,
Well,
and
Matt, I
live it
got
like
a
I really
question
want
because
to.
I think
So,
everybody watching right now, and I think Brandon probably agree, is like, dude, you exude confidence. Like, you got this confidence about yourself, and even to the point of when you talked about going to that first event in insurance, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna be number one. I'll be on that stage, and it's just this air of confidence. And I think that I heard this from you. You would say quite a bit that success would leave clues, right? And so it's like, okay, if that's the truth, then let's go clue hunting.
Yeah.
Let's go find some clues, right? And that's kind of the purpose of this podcast, is to have different individuals on that can leave some clues. But it's up to somebody and everybody on this podcast as you get off is to do something with that clue, right? And that goes back to the whole trying to know so much before you do anything. And I think that's the definition of low confidence, is having a desire of, I want to go build a business. I want to step in to be an entrepreneur. I want to do these things. I'm okay with taking the risk. I'm okay with making some sacrifices. I'm so sick of where I'm at now that the thought of staying here is actually more painful than the thought of sacrificing and taking a risk to move forward. And maybe somebody's in that place where they're like, okay, I want to move. But then all of a sudden you get stuck staring at the game plan, the strategy, overthinking things, and you're not moving towards anything at all. And I think that's where confidence is kind of just destroyed, is knowing that you got to do something, knowing that there's a step ahead of you, a next step to take, but you're just delaying taking it. And I always say procrastination is like the insurance policy that we would take out against success. And so, for you, it sounds like you're a doer. Like, you see something, if it makes sense, let's go take action. How did you build that kind of confidence? Because I know that over the years of spending time with multiple seven-figure income earners, people that have built big businesses and exited businesses, that's a commonality, right? Watching Brand as he stepped into and deciding to build a church and launch a church in the high desert, right? Which, doesn't flow with milk and honey, so to speak. Like, it's not the promised land of abundance of people. It's a smaller town, but saying, I'm called to do this, and stepping out with really this kind of uncanny confidence. I remember getting together and at my house when you kind of were like, hey, I feel like God's put this on my heart. This is where we're going to go. There was no like, I don't know if he's that committed to it. It was like, no, he had this confidence that this is what I'm going to do. We're going to make an impact. We're going to serve people. We're going to make a difference. We're going to be a difference maker in this community. We're going to see people come to God. And it was this confidence of a vision that was like, I'm going after it. I don't care what the cost is. I know this is what I'm going to do. I believe that's an essential quality in order to go out there and see success in any area. Can you kind of talk about how did you build that confidence? And because that confidence wasn't only in the business, dude, I saw that confidence with the way you raised your kids and how you were a father. We've spent a ton of time on different trips across the globe. And some of those trips you brought your daughter in, and I just saw that, even your confidence in how you were leading her was apparent. Kind of unpack that if you could. How did you build that confidence, and how important was that confidence and your ability to build and do what you've done?
yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that helps you understand if you're built for this is just, are you a competitive individual? Because I think I attribute that to growing up playing sports and playing college football, for example, is like, at least I wanted to compete in the arena of life. And then, sales was just something I got lucky enough to get into out of college, simply because it created a new sense of something to compete for, and being wanting, people, they want, money, they want recognition. If people say they don't like to be recognized, or don't like money, that's foolish. That's probably why you got into sales. So it was more of the competitiveness, and then just building a foundation of small wins. You know what I mean? Like every every day, stacking on every day upon every day, and then realizing, you get to a point where in anything you've done for a little while, you get to a point where you've seen every kind of almost every scenario that you're going to see in an industry. And then once you get to that point, no matter what industry that it is, it really allows you to have ultimate confidence to be able to attack every angle that you have. Shortcuts are obviously mentors. I've been lucky enough, like I said, to be around some great people. Um, and but with that said, I would always tell you, try to go to the very top of the list of mentors. I think what happens a lot of the times is individuals get mentored by people that aren't really where they want to be in life. I think there's a lot of people out there right now, especially the way with social media. A lot of people out there just, they want to be that person. They want to be that mentor. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but they simply haven't had the success that you would think they would have. So I think you got to be careful with who you partner with, and who you want to do with, because if you don't partner with the right people, you end up regretting it. And I know certainly I have not had a perfect partnership scenario over my years, but I'm also grateful that I've been able to be where I'm at. So I think it's just, your discipline sets you free. Small wins will set you free, and then all of a sudden your identity starts to change based off of those things and the people that you're hanging around. You are the five people that you hang around the most. So it's always good to take some inventory on, different aspects of your life. I mean, also, if you notice, there's something, Adam Grant, who's a Ivy League psychologist, great best-selling author, etc. He wrote a book about givers and takers, and matchers. He mentioned matchers too. But the interesting thing about people is, and this goes in every industry, so not just sales, but as far as performing, givers actually are the lowest performing people, the people that give the most. But the interesting thing is they're actually they actually perform the best. So givers perform the best. People that want to match what they're receiving, more of a reciprocal information, like relationship, like, hey, Paul's going to do this, so I'll do this too. Okay, that we're good. Or takers, we've all been around those people where they just want to bleed you dry and take as much as you can, and then they put you to the west side. All those people perform at lower levels, and that's a good way for you to identify staff. That's a good way for you to identify who you want to hang around. I want to be around people that don't watch the scoreboard with me. I want to be in relationships that I'm giving so much because I don't have to worry about what I'm getting back, because I know the value is there. So if you can set yourself up in those environments where that's the healthiest relationships you can have. If you have a wife that's a giver, if you have your friends that are givers, if you have professional colleagues that are givers, man, what kind of life are we talking about? I mean, I'm a big proponent. I always say the secret to happiness is progress. And whether you make progress in your professional life or personally, the minute that you digress in either your personal life or business, people generally get unhappy when the income goes down, or when things don't go your way in business. People become unhappy when personal, you know, friendships, etc., trouble comes on. People are less happy. So progress is the secret to happiness. And as long as you're making progress throughout the your journey, I think you'll find a lot of
I love that,
success.
dude. I
You
think
know,
that's I always say give and grow. In fact, that's a Wi-Fi password. If you're up here in the anywhere in the facility, and you're wondering what it is, it's give and grow. You got to give, man, and you got to grow, right? You got to give back, and that's exactly what you said. When you're giving and serving and making a difference, and you have that person in mind. And I think that also plays into sales, right? Like anybody that you're selling, if you go into that, and I know that brand, I got something of greater value than whatever I'm getting in return. And in sales, a lot of times that return is commission, right? It's getting a paycheck. But if I go into that sales and I'm approaching like, man, I've got so much value to give you, and I'm focused on the value that I'm providing, I'm a giver. I'm not focused on what am I getting, what's the reciprocation here, or what am I receiving. It's, man, how can I serve you? How can I give? How can I make this transaction transformational, where you end up excited and happy that we had it, right? That's the giving. And the growing is a lot what you said, Matt, is that whole 60% of closing is being able to build your skill and your ability, right? And that's the progress, where you just get a little bit better. Maybe you sit back at night and you kind of analyze the different areas of your life, whether that's family, fitness, franchise, finance, all these different things, faith. And you say, am I growing in these areas? What did I learn in all these areas? And what can I put on my schedule tomorrow that's going to be a form of education that's going to take all what I've experienced and also grow upon it? And then the last point I want to highlight, kind of summarizing what you talked about, is, it's the consistent, frequent activity of going after and doing it. Like if you're out there and you're taking fast, repetitive action, you're more likely when you do the reflection, you're more likely when you listen to some education, you're more likely when you get the right mentorship to take more from it, because it's just right in front of you. It'd be the difference of me and Brand golfing once a week and you now golfing twice a day, right? Like your repetition is so much quicker that if all of a sudden you pop up a YouTube video and they're like, this is how you swing, like, dude, you're going to get more from it than me and Brand are, because we're Friday evening golfers, you know what I mean? And 9 to 13 holes. But that's just the way it works. And so, I mean, I absolutely love that. And the one question I've got, and I know Brand has got a question to follow up with this, is like on the sales part, like we're all selling. I think that some people will think like, well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not in a sales career. I work a 9-to-5 job. And I think they're missing the fact that we're always selling. You're selling your kids on how to behave. You're selling them when to go to bed, when to wake up. You're selling yourself. Like, dude, I've always said in helping people go out there and elevate their sales, it was mostly not the practical, mechanical things that they were lacking. It was the self-belief that they could go out there and they were a person of value that could provide value. That was the issue. Like, they weren't sold on themselves. They weren't sold on the value they were providing. And so therefore they would go out and they would say things to create objections and situations and circumstances to just really validate the lack of closing themselves and the conviction that they needed to have to go out there and help the person. And so talk about the selling side, how did you build the sales skill? So somebody's on here and they're like, man, I'm just struggling. And I've been here. I got an 11-year-old right now. Like, I'm struggling with them listening and honoring, right? And obeying. Because sales is a transfer of thoughts and ideas where the person sees the value and they pick it up and now they own it. Now they run with it. Now it's their thought, right? Somebody might be on here and they're saying, I'm trying to get my kids on board. And this might be more for me than it is in somebody else.
Conversation we have all the time.
I'm trying. This is me selfishly asking this, right? Because sometimes it's a reminder, right? And that's a big thing is somebody getting on and be like, I've heard that before. But how do you use sales? How did you build sales in that skill, the skill of sales? Because people got to understand that you're selling your spouse on teaching them how to treat you. You're selling them maybe at 10 o'clock at night, something that you want, right? Like, we're all closing and we're all trying to get, and the goal is with selling is you're actually providing the value to the other person, right? How does somebody build a sales skill, and how is that applicable, in all these different areas of their life?
Yeah, I think That's a great question, by the way. I mean, the biggest thing that most people don't do is
That's
they don't
good.
rehearse their, they don't practice their sales skills at all, and they wing it. And they're like frustrated because they kind of had, maybe they had a sales script, for example, and they wing it, they get poor results, and then they quit. And the truth of the matter is, I said it quickly before, but we'll just use the word preparation. Preparation does not mean procrastination. It simply means that you should be prepared enough to be. If someone hands you a script and says, you should know, here's five objections. It's just not that hard. Like, here's five common objections, and here's a
Mhm.
sales script for the intro of a call. It shouldn't take you long to memorize that and be able to pivot to objections to get back into a script very quickly. The problem is people really struggle with those scenarios. In the car business, I was lucky. What I did is there was no script. Even when I got in insurance, the beginning marketing organization, there was zero sales script, really, really, maybe a little bit on the phone, but in home, I had no idea what it was doing. So I just had to kind of uh, do what worked for me. And then I got more into a presentation, because the other thing too, Paul, is when you think about it, when you're, or for you too, Brandon Mayer, is like, when you think about your sales presentation, if we ask an individual, and no matter what they're trying to achieve or get, like, hey, I'm trying to persuade my wife to go to dinner here, or I'm trying to tell my kids I want to have them do these specific things, you know, how am I going to persuade them? I mean, it comes into every area. Problem solving and sales comes into every area of our life. For people that say, I'm not a salesperson, oh, yes, you are. You definitely are. You were selling your mom on, you getting a cookie as a kid every day of your life. So, that's certainly the case. But I think the key is rehearsing things, preparing, getting feedback from someone where you're at, that mentor. I don't think success is that difficult if you get around the right people in the right industry. It's like, for example, Paul, the temporary staffing franchise model that I rolled out. It's like, hey, I've had friends that have been doing this for 15 years, and they're extremely successful. And I know they've built platforms that are going to help us scale in a big way. So it's like, hey, I'm going to partner with them, simply because success leaves clues. There are
Yeah.
shortcuts to life, and that's finding the right people to be in business with and building those relationships, which is another sales skill. And like, and I don't mean this as attacking, everybody's got a shot, but if you're someone that like doesn't have a lot of people in your life where you struggle with communication or talking, and you go to a Starbucks, and you're maybe you need to practice there. And what I mean by that is start talking to people and seeing if you can get a short, genuine connection with people, and without your agenda. And see if you're someone that can start to have genuine connections all around your life, you'll
Yeah.
find a lot of success in the area that you want to go. I think people, they struggle introducing themselves to people. Um, but if you can be an individual that can find, if you're more interested in other people than yourself, you're going to be one of those genuine connections. I was lucky enough last year, for example, I was on a flight back from Virginia, and Tara Vanderveer, the NCAA all-time winning coach from Stanford, who just retired this year, was on the flight with me. And I tried to leave her alone, talked to her for 20 minutes, but she was genuinely interested in me. And we're in this giving conversation where she wants to know about Ava and Aaliyah, and she wants to know about my wife, and she wants to know where are they going, and all this different things. And I'm like asking her about her, where she lives, what other places here, her hobbies, her family, her sister who coaches, like all this stuff. And it was this amazing moment, right, where you get those, but you're in this, she was trying to outgive me, and I was just trying to be more interested in her. She would not allow it. And it's like, no wonder why you're
That's
the
good.
most winningest coach in NCAA history for basketball. It's like you're out here with this stranger giving way more than anything could be. It was pretty. It was just taken back and impressed that there was no ego. There was no agenda for her. She did want Ava to walk on at Stanford. But I said, well, we're excited to play at Utah State. So that was interesting. But yeah, yeah, just those are aspects of what you need to do. And then, hey, there's nothing wrong with trying things and getting feedback. Hey, that didn't work. Okay, let's document that and let's try it and approach things in a different way. I mean, it's just that simple. But if you never try anything in a different manner, you're never going to get the feedback you need to approach something in a different way. Most people just continually do the same thing, and it's like, man, this isn't working. And either the skill set's low or their approach is wrong. It's
I
pretty
think it's
simple.
good. It's amazing. A lot of good stuff there. I want to just maybe transition quickly, and this is probably another selfish question for probably both me and Paul. Because if you were to see us on a Saturday morning, probably the last 10 years of our life, you probably wouldn't recognize us because we're yelling, screaming from the sidelines of our kids' soccer games, right?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be alone. There's other dads out there, other moms out there. Now, as we've grown and matured over the years, we're a little more calm now, I would say. Because every parent would like to think, my kid's got it. My kid is the one, right? This kid's going D1. This kid's going pro. But you're a dad that actually, now you mentioned it briefly. Your daughter's Division I athlete, which is amazing, and many of us from afar have been kind of watching, her journey through your stories and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And a cool story, with the whole Kobe Bryant thing, and she was playing against his daughter at the time of the accident. Just the whole journey leading up to it has been a really cool story to kind of watch. But I guess selfishly, my question would be, how were you able to implement like the discipline, the structure, the routine? Because my boys are 9 and 10 now. They're highly skilled at what they do, but I'm trying to teach them, hey, it can't all be mom and dad reminding you to go to practice or reminding you to work out or reminding you to grab all your stuff. Like, at what point, or how did you kind of talk to your daughters through that of owning it and hey, this is yours now. If you're gonna reach the next level, how do you communicate with them as far as you got to have the structure, you got to have the discipline, you have to want it more than mom and dad want it. Kind of walk us through that journey with your daughter, and it looks like you got another one, Aaliyah, coming right up.
Yeah, she's a beast too,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, so kind of walk us through what that journey's been like, and their whole recruitment process, and give us some feedback and what we can do right or wrong as our kids are coming
real
up.
quick before Matt answers that. The funny story is I was at Matt's house probably 10 years ago. I want to say Ava was 7, and she beat me on one-on-one. Yeah, so I kind of knew then. Not that I'm some elite basketball player, 5'9" doesn't cut it in the NBA. But dude, I was like, dude, she's got it. I mean, she was balling at a very, very early age. So she's got some good skills. But anyways, I just thought that would be funny to throw out there because I was having PTSD flashbacks of losing to a 7-year-old, girl, and while you were talking about that.
Help us struggling dads out there, Matt. Help
That's
us, man.
funny. No, that's so. Yeah. Well, first of all, sports parents are all nuts. That includes me too. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with that. I think the greatest blessing of having a second child is you realize that not every game is the Super Bowl or the NBA championship or whatnot. So that definitely helps with perspective. Also, the biggest thing that helped me, because early on, just with the Ava, because Aaliyah's in 7th grade right now, but I remember right around when she got into 8th grade, up until when she got in 8th grade, I was one of those parents that was I was so fired up for the game, it was game, as if I was playing. I was like, yes, I can't wait to get on the field. It was weird. It was like living through your child completely. And we all live through our kids. I don't care what anybody says. We all definitely live through our kids in certain ways. But one of the best things that I did right around 8th grade, I kind of started to let go, and let it be what it's going to be. Because at the end of the day, it's her journey, her story, it's really what she wants to do. So I just let go and let it go. But to answer your first question in regards to how did she, enjoy the grind, right? I think we really set standards as parents early where it was not abnormal to do before school workouts and after school workouts. And it almost just it was a routine, and they were there days they didn't feel like it. Yeah, but it was like, that's not part of the process we're on. So it's like, probably a little, definitely Trish and I pushed for sure as parents, but I think that they also wanted it too. And like Aaliyah's fallen in the same footsteps as Ava in regards to her disciplines and everything else. And you know from your kid, you just can't have the kid that says, "Hey, I want to be D1," and then they're not doing the things that they need to do. Because I was thinking about the stats the other day, just with the transfer portal and all the different things that are going on. I mean, there's about 1,100 Division I scholarships out there annually. There's about 5,000 D1 players that are playing right now. There's 400,000 high school kids every year. So you're talking about like 25% of 1% chance that your kid plays Division I for women's basketball for 350 schools, 14 kids generally on the roster. So it's like, that is it's a small window when you really think about it. But everybody has big dreams, but not everybody wants to put the work in to get there. And think about, Brandon, you played too, sports wise. Like, think about
Yeah.
also, like, you just don't know what you don't know as a kid. You have big dreams, and dreams are great, but if you're not around the right people, the right trainers, the right people that are giving you some feedback on where you're headed or what you want to do, then you really don't know. So, and the other thing too is, uh, I know there's a lot of parents that think their kids are way better than they are, and they live in this. What they don't understand is there's levels to the game, and what I mean by that is, you're winning some local tournament with a decent local team, but you're playing in a really bad tournament at the end of the day. And if you went on a national level with, I use it, there's 32 Nike teams for basketball for men's and women's EYBL. And, we had to drive 5 years, 3 hours and back to Seattle for practice twice a week. So the parents would leave at 3 in the afternoon, get back at midnight just for AAU practice so she could play on a Nike team, so she could play again at the highest level of basketball, so we weren't confused on the competition. There's a lot of people that play in these tournaments and they're thinking, man, my kid's dominating. It's like, put them against the best competition. Then you really get the true feedback. Then you truly understand where you're getting. A lot of times parents believe their kid's great. And, you got to be honest with yourself too, because my daughters aren't perfect in many ways, right? Like, you've got to be honest with where your children are at athletically, and how much skill set are they developing? What's their skill set like at age now compared to other kids? And if they're on track or higher than other kids, you're on the right path. And I think all the little things with that, I think strength and conditioning training is very underrated for all sports. As kids get older, there's so many things available to these kids nowadays, technology wise. It's incredible to see the amount of success you can have. And that's the reason why it's so important to have success too, because a lot of times money gets in the way of a lot of things. I mean, I probably spend $2,000 a month right now on still training my kids with trainers, just having them train. I mean, I could have easily put my kids through a very nice education if we just never did any of this. But how much fun would that be, right? So, and it's so cool because you think about sports. My business partner for 17 years was my college roommate who I played football with in college. And it's, you think about these things, it's like basketball, through even Ava, has taken my wife and I places that we just never would have gone. And now Ava's going to experience more places where she's never been through college. And it's like sports is such a great catalyst to have experience and moments that you'll never forget. And the thing I always tell Ava is the main reason why I want you to play sports in college is you get treated like, it's a business for these coaches. Their livelihood is on the line, and you're going to get treated like a piece of meat, essentially. Like you have to perform in order to play. And if you don't, it's going to be what it is. You have to get better, and you have to expect there to be some failures and success along the way. And I think that really prepares people for real life situations. That's all you can ask for your kids is how are they handling the failures and successes? Because everybody seems to do fine when they have a little bit of success, but the minute you have failure, I think that's my biggest learning lesson in business is adapting to circumstances and things that come your way at 100 miles per hour. And you've got to pivot, make a decision, and have certainty behind it. I mean, one of the best things for Ava right now is just signing that scholarship. Now we have a certainty of, okay, you're going here, you're playing here. Here's the game plan. Here's when you leave for college. Here's what we need to do to have you ready for these things. It's certainty in life in regards to anything you're doing. It eliminates a lot of white space, and it gives you a real chance to have a great, successful career in anything that you're doing. So I would tell you, I started out, to summarize, they were willing to do the work, and as long as your kids are willing to do the work, and then you set that standard, and then you have that routine. There's going to be days where they don't feel like it, but they know it's just the routine. So, and they know they know their goals, right? It's good to have, like anything in life, if you have a long-term vision on what you want out of this deal, you realize it was all worth it. Like, man, we drove 5 hours up to Seattle for 5 years, and that include tournaments and flying every other weekend to some place around wherever. It's like, you ask yourself, gosh, was it all worth it? And then the end result, it's great to have her play Division I basketball, but it's like, yeah, it's worth it. It was worth it, and it was worth it because of the person that she's became in the process of everything else too. It was worth it because when some little social thing happens at school, she's got thick skin and your kid can handle it. Where a lot of these kids nowadays, because they don't have the failures, they don't have rejection, because part of that recruiting process, not everybody wants you. And you're going to talk to a million colleges and they act like they want you, but not everyone wants you. So like there's a lot of lessons that can be learned, and she's handled gracefully and terrific the entire time, and just kudos to her. And really, I give Trisha, my
she's
wife,
a lot better than you, for
all
sure.
the credit. She's the one that yeah. She's the one that has she just has a real knack for just walking her through the whether it's school or the relationships outside of school or where she needs to be. I think I give her.
Well, dude, you said a lot in that last answer, man. I mean, I think the powerful thing you said was sometimes it's not just the goal. Once it's achieved, that's the success. It's the person you're becoming in that journey. And that's applicable to really everything we unpack today, right? Even your business, the person that's saying, well, I don't know about it. Well, just make that decision and move forward. Indecision is one of those things that will cripple you from any level of success. But, the person you become, even if it doesn't work out, it's kind of like, what's the worst case value proposition? And sometimes that's even greater than not doing it. Right. Like developing character because you stepped out and tried a business that didn't work out. The character that you build in that is far greater than if you would have never tried it in the first place. So even the negative is better than not taking the step. And sometimes I think when we step back and really unpack it and ask ourselves some very pointed questions, then all of a sudden the procrastination, the indecision, it starts to bleed away because we're able to find the certainty in it. And no different than with Ava and her journey in becoming a Division I athlete. The person she becomes, even if it fell out, even if she didn't get the offer, she's a better version of herself because of all those early morning practices, the disciplines. She knows now more of what she's able and capable to do, and she's got those disciplines. I mean, Matt, we would talk a lot about recruiting, and it was like, man, let's recruit somebody that's got, professional or post high school athletic background was one of those things that we could just say, well, it doesn't necessarily mean everything, but it's a good indication that they're going to have some of these characteristics that are necessary and needed to go out there and build a business, because you need to have that self-motivation. You need to have that self-discipline. You need to have that self-image to go out there and be self-employed, right? And so I think that's such an important thing. Last question I got for you, brother, is, and this has been so good, dude. I mean, I've enjoyed it immensely. I actually don't want it to end, but, we got to come to a close eventually, but maybe we'll end and we'll continue to talk just like this. Maybe we'll record it, maybe we won't. But if you can let's just say somebody bumps into you. They're at a Starbucks, dude. You're getting ready to get your quad shot, your 4-shot espresso, because it's about to be a good day, right? They bump in. They're like, Matt, I hear you. I took notes on the podcast. Stuff's good. I've got this dream that was put in my heart. I've not stepped into it yet, but I feel like, I want to step into this. What's the first practical thing you tell them to do, the first step, the first thought, the first action? What is that? What do you give them that's not already been kind of given?
So they said dreams in
Yeah,
my
it could be
heart
a business. I want to go
for
step out and do
whatever the
something
dream
new,
is,
something
basically.
that's uncomfortable, unfamiliar. But I know I got this feeling, this glimpse of there could be better before me.
I think it's a lot of the things that we touched on today. It's probably not just one thing, but I think I would tell the person that there's going to be a split in the road, and it's going to come it's going to be sooner than you think, where you've got to decide if you're someone of action of your dreams or someone that just likes to think about dreaming. So if you're someone that just is a wisher, right? The dream is unfulfilled is just a wish. You got to be honest with yourself enough to say, I wish this or that, or is this something that you're truly willing to put action for in a dedicated way, fearlessly, and understand that there's going to be plenty of forks in the road, and you're going to have to pivot quickly, learn fast, and continue the same action even when you don't
I
feel
love
like
that.
it.
Good. I love it. I love it. Well, Matt, crushed it, man.
Yeah, dude, that was
Appreciate
great.
you. Hey, real quick,
All right, thank you
aside
guys.
from
Yeah.
playing in the Pro-Am, Phoenix Open, making us all look bad and envious of your life, because we don't get to see much. I tell this to Paul all the time. Like he's got way more, over the years, and probably the same with you, successful things that he could be showing off, whether it's cars, houses, or properties, whatever. But you don't really see it all. You know what I mean? And it's something I appreciate, like this humbleness, this like, hey, I don't need to let everyone know everything. It's just like, I'm just here to serve. I'm here to give back. Like all of his posts are not showing off his stuff. It's trying to serve people. And I see the same with you, right? So I don't see the whole, behind the scenes personal life. So aside from just golfing every once in a while and making us jealous with those posts, what do you got going for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? What does your life look like moving forward, business wise, personally? And then how could people follow you kind of on your journey?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram is at the Matt Smith #1. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I'll probably put more things out here as the years goes on. Maybe a little more personal touch to things for
Yeah.
sure. I like being private though. It's like,
Not everyone needs to know everything.
it's nice to not put and honestly,
Yeah.
I know not everybody cares, right, about people's opinions, right? So, like, I think people think
Mhm.
they're much more important than they really are. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to be out here, make people's lives better, and make progress in mine, and help as many people along the way. I'm very excited about all the things I have in the queue coming up in the next few years, including the temporary staffing thing I mentioned. I've been working on that for the last year. But I mean, the sky's the limit, man. It's just continue to be around a lot of good people, learn lessons from the things that I've made mistakes on, certainly, and just be grateful for the process of the journey. I think the interesting thing about having that exit, Brandon Muir, is in business is, I realized that the happiness is certainly the journey of everything. It's certainly not a destination, and the other thing about money is once you have a little bit of money, you realize you don't have that much, right? So I realize that it's a great tool. I'll always, want to have that tool, right? But it's certainly not everything. I think the relationships and the people that you're around are really where life is gets good. So I'm just grateful for you guys and people like you guys to be able to be in my life because it's a blessing. And I love what you guys are doing and how you're influencing people in a very positive way. This more people like you guys need to be out there. I think it's a cool story. I think it's cool that you're both of you are on the younger side. I guess you're getting older by the minute, but
well, that's how it's
you're
because the
still
gap
pretty young
always
in
stays
my
the same
eyes.
between your age and my age,
But
bro.
it's the gap stays the same. I'm like, dang, Paul's like 35 now. What? Like, is that? I'm like, wow.
We
I'm
met
48
when I was 20.
So it's
was it
like
20 or 21? And yeah, 20, dude. I mean, think about that, man.
like
It's
20,
been
I think.
it's almost 2 decades. It's crazy. And yeah,
Yeah, you see a lot. I got some
dude,
cool
some
old
photos.
videos of us, Paul, that make us laugh
pretty
at
good.
least.
Maybe we'll throw one up and people can see that.
Photos
but
too, yeah,
dude,
photos
it's
too.
been a great journey, and I think what you just said, it was deep,
Yeah.
man. It was profound, and I think there was so much truth behind it. It was a great life philosophy, which is, some people are chasing the thing that's never going to fulfill, and you really only understand that once you get it, and that void becomes that much brighter because you thought it was and it wasn't. And so it is about relationships. It's about connecting with people. It's about loving people, serving people. And it's been a great journey with you and other people to be able to kind of help enhance what God's put in you. You know what I mean? And so for anybody that's on here today that says, man, I want to have, maybe they're looking at their circle, right? And you said a statement as far as like, the 5 people that you spend most of your time with, it really has a great impact and determination on where your life's going to be in the next 5 years. And that's a fact. And they're saying, well, I want to have some good people. Well, man, reach out to us, shoot us a text, a comment, say, hey, love to connect with you. Shoot us a DM. I mean, I think that for me, I feel my level of fulfillment each day really has a great, I guess, connection with the amount of people that I've tried to pour into. And like you said in the beginning, man, we're all learning, right? The whole goal is to learn, to go out there and do, and then to teach. Learn, do, teach. And so, we're all in the process, hopefully, of doing all 3.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're all doing all 3. We're all learning and getting better because you have to. Nobody's arrived. Unless I check, there's no Jesus on the call right now. I mean, he's in us, but he's not at the table talking to you. We're all messed up and trying to figure things out. And at the same time, we're all trying something new, hopefully, to do what you said, that philosophy of experimentation, trying something new, adjusting, adapting. That's where fun is. And then going out there and teaching people, hey, let me tell you how I screwed up. Let me tell you what I learned. Let me tell you what works. And so, man, what a fruitful conversation that we've had today, man. Brand, appreciate you, brother.
Paul,
Matt, thank you, dude.
Appreciate you, man.
It's been good, guys. Make sure, if you haven't already, I think that you should do it now. If you're like, I want to give, how do I give? Share. You sharing this with somebody is sowing a seed of giving into their life because you don't know if it's the exact words that they need to hear to go out there and level up their life. So, Matt, appreciate you, brother. Love you, my man. Guys, let's go out there, make it a big week. Be strong, stay steadfast. Let's crush it. See you guys.